Hi, I'm Marianne Gomez, Associate Director of Student and University Partnerships here at Ross Vet. I'd like to welcome everyone for tuning in to our live stream today. We are incredibly excited to have Dr. Jaimie Ronchetto here with us to talk about opening and owning your own veterinary practice. For everyone tuning in today, please share your questions throughout the session so we can field them to Dr. Ronchetto in real time. And you'll also notice that there's a link pinned at the top of the comment area, which will direct you to a page on our website to find out more about Ross Vet. Thanks. So Dr. Ronchetto, over to you. Please tell us a little bit about your journey so far.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is a huge honor to be able to talk to all you guys about my journey. It's especially been an interesting one, I think, coming from Ross. It's special for me to be able to talk to all you guys again and to the fellow Rossies. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Southern California. I went to UC Davis for undergrad and graduated from there with my Bachelor of Science with an emphasis in neurobiology, physiology, and behavior. That set me up well because it just gave me a really good broad background in the sciences. And during that time, sort of worked part-time in the veterinary industry. I think I'm like everyone else that wants to go to vet school and be a vet, is you sort of learn from the get-go that you love animals, you want to help animals. And that just sort of grew. I did a lot of work in sort of different fields, trying to get an idea of exactly what that was. Was it going to vet school and being a veterinarian? Was it working in animals, working with animals in a different capacity? So I did some work during undergrad. I worked at an ER, veterinary ER after hours. I did a little bit of general practice work. And then after college, I actually went to Wake Forest University in North Carolina, and I worked there for a little while doing more research. So still was hands-on with animals, but in a very different capacity. And I enjoyed that a lot, but that's really when I figured out for myself that I wanted to be more hands-on with animals, with their owners, and be helping them one-on-one that way rather than going the research route. And, you know, once you work your way up the ranks in research, you're not doing the hands-on stuff with animals. You're in your office writing the grants and doing all the other work, you know, and you've hired other people to work with the animals. So that was sort of my deciding factor, and applied to vet school, got into Ross, and it was kind of a no-brainer for me to go to Ross when I had that opportunity. I loved pretty much everything about Ross that I had heard of. I have a major travel bug, so the fact that I could go to a school out of the country and get to travel a little bit, experience different culture there, as well as get my veterinary degree, that was amazing. So I highly enjoyed my time there. I went to Cornell for my clinical year, graduated in 2007, and then headed home to practice. And that's where I've stayed, is my hometown.
Okay, thank you for sharing your background and how you came to go to Ross. So what made you want to open your own practice? Did you do that right away? What was life like after you graduated?
Yeah, so I was in private practice as an associate for about 5 years, which was great, and it showed me a lot. I think it's important for people to sort of get their feet wet right out of vet school and work in a practice first to kind of see really the true day-to-day of things. For me, I had my first job I worked at for a couple of years. I loved. Unfortunately, I ended up getting laid off, and then I had to sort of search for another job. And the second job that I got, I was not happy there. So I kind of always knew that I wanted to open my own practice, but the fact that I sort of landed in a space that wasn't the best for me and I wasn't happy with, I felt like I wasn't really growing. I would sort of hit a ceiling of growth, really pushed me to open my own practice way sooner than I ever thought that I would. But it was a good leap for me to take, and I definitely have not regretted anything.
Good. I'm so glad. So I guess what would you say to somebody that's thinking about doing that? Where did you even start? How did you choose a location, hire staff? Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, a lot goes into it. When I was in vet school, there wasn't ever really any major business classes going on to sort of teach you the ins and outs of opening and owning a practice and managing a practice. So for me, it was very much learn as I go. The way I started was when I went to CE conferences, I would sit in on some of the practice management courses first, and just to get my feet wet to see if this is really something that I could do, what goes into it. Talk with consultants. They will give you a lot of information and lead you in the right direction. And then when I really decided, yep, I'm going to do this, and it's basically all about surrounding yourself with the right people to help you out. I very much did this on my own. I started from scratch. I did not buy out another practice. So it was finding a location that fit my needs, and one that I felt like I could grow in. So that was the first big hurdle, is finding your location. Where do you want to be? So I knew I wanted to stay in my hometown, and I worked with a commercial realtor and looked at a lot of different places, and came down to a really good location, sort of center of town. It's a big enough place. I felt like I could grow, and sort of everybody knew where it was, which was nice. So people can find you easily. And I think that's a huge part of it. So once we decided on the location, then obviously you go through lease negotiations and city permits and all of that, which, again, if you have the right people by your side, it's not as scary, and they kind of help you through that process. And from there, I guess I would say, it's getting sort of all of your business forms together. So you need to come up with a name. For me, my business name is Cinema Veterinary Center. Cinema is like the movies because the street that I'm on used to have a giant movie theater there. So everybody knows it for that reason. Even though it's not a movie theater anymore, it's now like a big mega church. It's still named Cinema Drive. So I'm just Cinema Veterinary Center. And I thought that was kind of fun because not only will everybody know where I'm at just based off the name, but it kind of gave me fun things to work with as far as like branding and my own little style to put into it to be memorable. So that's been fun to kind of develop and sort of grow with along the way. Let's see.
What about your associates? I know that you're not the only vet on staff, right?
Right. So when I started, so I opened in 2012. So I've been open for 8 years. When I first opened, I was by myself. I think it's important to really kind of know what you want. So I started very small. It was just me, like one receptionist and 2 or 3 other helpers. Everybody was part-time and everybody was cross-trained to do a little bit of everything. So that was really helpful. But in the beginning, as an owner, you're doing a little bit of everything. Like I was a receptionist sometimes. I had to answer the phones. I was the janitor. I cleaned the kennels. I did the laundry. If everybody else is busy, you jump in and you do what you need to do to keep things moving smoothly. Now that I've been open for as long as I have, I've grown to have 2 other doctors. So I have one full-time, another part-time, and I'm now part-time, which is great. And I have a staff of 15 support staff. So we've grown by leaps and bounds. And now I finally have the time where when I'm there, I can just be a doctor. I have an office manager now. I have, a head of reception, a head of technician, and all of that. So I don't have to worry about most of the day-to-day things. But in the beginning, it certainly was the opposite of that. So anybody wanting to open their own practice really needs to be aware that you're sort of going for the long game, right? You're put in the work in the beginning. You're going to be tired. It's long hours, working all the time. you're doing everything, you're managing everything, but definitely pros and cons.
You shared some pictures with us. Can you give us a quick tour?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I can. So I think the first that comes up is a couple pictures of the outside of the clinic. So this just shows a little bit about, again, location is kind of key. I'm in Southern California, so there's not a lot of just freestanding buildings, certainly not a lot of buildings to buy. So I am on a leasehold and I'm in a strip mall. But for me, it was nice because I'm on the end. I have a lot of ample parking in the front and to the side, and you can see it from a very major street just a little bit down the road. So it was a great location that way. And it, you can see my sign is very prominent. We have a lot of windows, so we get a lot of light, and it makes for a nice sort of warm feeling when you walk into it, having all of those windows and the light.
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get the next one up. I guess while we're waiting, why don't you tell us some ways, I guess when you opened, how did you engage the community?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's really important too. Obviously, it helped me that I worked other places before. So I was already known in the community. I had great clients, loyal clients that I kind of knew would probably follow me. So that was helpful. But certainly especially if you're not already well known in a community, let's say you're moving someplace and you're starting out brand new, I found it really helpful to do a lot of different types of marketing. So word of mouth obviously is always great, and I was lucky enough to have that. But in addition to that, in the beginning, I did door-to-door mailers. I targeted certain zip codes that I knew were sort of around where my office was set up. Those were great in the very beginning. And then I have an ad out in the local magazine, and I get to write an article with the magazine every month, which is helpful. So I get to reach pet owners and help educate them on different topics, sort of my choosing, what I decide to write about. And then it's also advertising. So, they'll call me if they have a question, or maybe I've piqued their interest and they'll want to call and follow up on something. And then the other really fun thing that I do is a spot on the local radio station. So we have a local community radio station. Every other week I do a little spot, and we focus on a different topic every time. I've been doing that for a while now, and it's great because in the beginning I just thought of my own topics, so I was already be prepared. But now that I've been doing it long enough, sometimes the host will come up with her own ideas, or we'll even get emails or calls in from the community while I'm there. And that's really fun because then I know that they're really engaged. We can, really answer what's going on right then. What are they worried about? Certainly lately it's been COVID questions and quarantine and all of that. So that's been really great way to reach out.
Awesome. Okay, I guess we can go back to the tour. I see that we have the next picture up.
I'm not seeing it on my screen, so just let me know when it changes.
Yeah.
So the floor plan is, I put this up just so you guys can get a better idea of the layout, obviously. This is one that I just snapped a picture of that we have in one of our exam rooms showing like exits in case of fire. But floor plan, so because I started from scratch, the building was not what it is now. So we kind of gutted it and started over. We created different exam rooms. So I have 3 exam rooms total, which actually will soon probably be 4 because now I've grown enough that we need a little bit more space. With COVID, we've decided we don't need as much lobby space now. So we're going to kind of move into the lobby and make another exam room out of that. But I have 3 exam rooms right now and a nice big lobby area. And then I have sort of a pharmacy kind of towards the right-hand side, a nice treatment area. And then I made separate areas for surgery, x-ray. There's bigger kennels towards the back. I do have our own ISO area, which is important. Even if you don't use it very often, it's super important to have your own ISO area. And then I have a little quiet room for cats and bunnies so that they're not out amongst all the chaos of the day. A small office for the doctors and a small break room. And then the technician area is kind of in the back as well, so they can still be in knowing what's going on in the treatment area, but they have their own workstation. And for the most part, this layout has worked really well for us. It's grown with us. Now that I've been around as long as I have, I'm finding that we're going to need to like expand in some way. I can't go into the unit next door because that's occupied. So hence working with what you have. So we'll see how that goes. Some changes will are afoot for sure. So okay. The reception picture that we have up, as you can see, was from Christmas time. So I think it's really fun to keep the team engaged. And so we always decorate for Christmas and the holidays, and we do little gift exchanges. They had all their own little stockings out, and that's always been fun for them to share. But the reception area is big enough for 2 receptionists to be behind the desk working at the same time, which has been super helpful. And the flow of things is such that it's easy for them to get to the back and the back to get to the front without necessarily having to come all the way into the lobby, which has been really helpful for just flow of communication with the staff. And then the waiting area, like I said, we have a really nice lobby, and it's been very useful in normal times. Now that it's COVID times and we're still curbside, nobody's really in the building. It's going to serve a new purpose soon too. Like I said, we're going to try to make a 4th exam room, because even once curbside goes away, we're thinking that things are not going to be back to total normal, right? So we're not going to have a bunch of people waiting in the lobby. We'll probably have some sort of tiered system where just a couple of people wait and then they go into the exam rooms while other people still wait outside. So not everyone's there at once. Hence a 4th exam room where more people can be waiting separate from everybody else will be important. So there's a few areas of the treatment. There's 2 workstations. One's a wet table where we do all of our dentals and dirty surgeries, and then just another normal table for other treatments or exams, things like that. This layout has worked pretty well, and there's a few different pictures to show you from like different angles. We have a little in-house lab area that we do cytologies and in-house blood work with. We have a sterilizing station. We have the surgery room that is just off of the treatment area. And that's nice because you're never too far away. If you need something, you can yell out and everybody's going to hear you. We have a little pass through on the side that's been really helpful as well. And the surgery suite, I feel like, is a good enough size to really kind of move around and work in depending on what you're doing. We don't do any orthopedic surgery, but we do a lot of soft tissue surgery. And depending on the surgeon and how they like things, it's nice that we can, move the table around or do whatever we need to do there. Then x-ray, obviously we have a digital x-ray unit, which has been great, and it incorporates right into our record keeping system, which is also paperless, which I love. It's kept things really streamlined. But the x-ray is all the way into the back of the building. So it's nice that it's separated. You don't need to worry about, radiation exposure to anybody else because it's walled off in its own little area towards the back. And then just another view of the treatment area. So this is just from a different angle, looking from the surgery suite outwards. And you can see at the very far end, there's another little door. So I try to keep some things sort of separated, and that would be the quiet room that I talked about as far as keeping small animals in there and cats that might be really scared. It doesn't totally eliminate all the noise, but it does help. You can just keep the light off, keep it all quiet in there. If they're really scared, we've even like played music in there for them quietly so that they don't hear all the barking of other dogs, which is nice. And then the kennels are kind of back towards the X-ray area. And it's, you know, certainly utilized a lot for larger dogs, and it's easy to clean, and that's helped a lot. And then I just included one picture of one of the exam rooms. So I have 3 total. They're all similarly set up, but this is a picture of one of the largest ones. It's kind of an odd shape with how my lobby was set up, but it's been nice because I put in, you can't see it, but on the wall kind of towards the right, I put in a drop down table. So it can come down for smaller pets, or if you have a really large dog, you can pull it up and out of the way. And so you have a lot more work area. And then certainly you have a sink and all of that in there to help keep things clean. For me, I have two of my larger rooms have the sinks in them. And then I have a smaller room towards the front that doesn't. So we keep that more for cats. And one of my associates sees birds and reptiles. So we try to keep them kind of in those rooms instead. And then just a little picture of the technician area. So they have a lot of different workspaces, and they kind of float around now. We because we're paperless, I give them all tablets or little laptops to work with, so that they're not just stuck in one area. But this desk has really served its purpose nicely because they can have all their stuff sort of in one area. It's sort of their central location.
All right, thank you. That was a nice tour to see your daily work area. I think we are going to start taking some questions now. So the first question for you, Dr. Ronchetto, is how did you choose the design for your clinic? Did you work with an interior designer, or was it all you?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I do not have an eye for this stuff at all. And that was one of the challenges with just finding the location. And I knew I was doing it from scratch and not buying out. So you'd go to this location and it might have a great sort of shell, but to walk in and be able to try to picture knocking down walls and creating different things, that was totally out of my element. So I did work with a contractor who was really great with just spatial design. And we came up with a few different drafts of what I wanted. And it was nice because he was very willing to work with me. And if he came back with something, we could tweak it. And I could, even if he wasn't completely aware of what a veterinary hospital needed, I would just need to give him my input. And he was very able to tweak things according to my needs.
Great. Are you interested in expanding into additional practices, or will you stick with the one?
I kind of toy with this all the time, and I don't know. I think right now I'm still happy with where I'm at, because again, I'm finally to the point where I can take a little bit of time away. I'm not needing to be at the office all the time. And I, obviously I still love my job and I love what I do, but it's nice to have a little bit of more balance at this point. But I do kind of toy with the idea of maybe opening a second location somewhere, or doing a slightly different type of practice, like keeping this one as just our general day practice, and at some point opening a secondary location that's more just holistic care. Like I just went through a certification process for acupuncture. So that's something that I'm really interested in, and I want to expand on that with other courses in the future. So maybe there's a satellite practice that's just more holistic, or an emergency practice where we're, have different hours or something like that. So it's definitely in my head, maybe someday.
Great. The next question, did you come up with the logo, or did you work with an agency graphic designer?
So I was very lucky. My cousin is a graphic designer. And so he was able to help me. And that goes back to me mentioning, like, working with people that are experts in their field. Surrounding yourself with the right people really makes this process a lot easier. So for me, it was fun to play off of the cinema theme and talking to him about options. He came up with, again, certain different things for me to look at and review, and we kind of came up with what worked best, which is, you know, the cute sort of movie reel with the cat and the dog inside of it.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Can you talk us through the hiring process? What do you look for in DVM candidates, specifically as you are interviewing?
Yeah, I mean, the hiring process for anybody, whether it's, you know, junior support staff or associate DVMs, can be really daunting. And it was, you know, kind of scary for me in the beginning, because you're sort of going based off of people, you know, obviously you're interviewing them, you're spending time with them, but you're trusting these people with your new baby practice, you know, and trying to find the best people to fill those shoes. And so a lot goes into just really getting to know the people, good interview questions, maybe more than one interview, working interviews, to really see how they would fit into the practice. So, you know, for DVM specifically, I would say the working interviews was very important. So I can see, how do they talk with clients? How do they treat their patients? What's their bedside manner? What is their quality of medicine? And is it the standards of care that I would want, you know, in my practice? And are they going to add to the workplace culture that I've created, or are they going to detract from it? You know, everybody's personalities are so different. I want to make sure that they're going to mesh well. We don't all have to be best friends, but we do have to get along and work together every day. So it's really important. Yeah.
Yeah. The next question is a good one. It's something I was wondering. Does your clinic primarily see small animals? Do any clients bring in exotic animals of any sort?
So we are a small animal practice, but we also do see some exotics. So I have one associate who sees a lot of fun stuff. So she sees not only dogs and cats, but she sees birds and reptiles and pocket pets. So the days that we get to work with her are really fun, because different creatures are always coming in through the door. But for myself, I just see dogs, cats, and I do see some pocket pets. And actually working with my associate, she's taught me a lot. And it's nice to have people there that you can continue to, like, learn from each other and grow. That's been really wonderful.
The next question is, how do you handle the stress of owning a practice?
It's very stressful. But for me, it came down to, this is all mine. Like, it's all my stress. It's not me stressing out to work for someone else when, you know, the level of stress I feel is kind of the same. So it made more sense to go this route and sort of own the stress and know that it's for a bigger purpose for myself. Mm-hmm. You do still need some work-life balance, obviously, and it is hard in the beginning. But making sure that you carve out time, like even when I was working all the time, I made sure that we were only open a half day on Saturdays. So it was a really quick day. And then I had the rest of the weekend off. I'm not open on Sundays. I don't do emergency or after hours. You know, you have to cut it off somewhere. And that's been very important, is you need to set boundaries from the beginning and kind of stick to those boundaries. So you have still time for yourself.
Yeah, that's so important. So Krista wants to know, I would love to open my own practice, but I'm nervous about the financial strain. How did you manage your time and schedule so that you could afford to open your own practice?
Yeah, it's scary. It's super scary. So for me, you know, I did talk to some consultants who are experts in this field and do this all the time, just to sort of pick their brain about, how do I even go about doing this? I'm never going to make enough money to be able to own, you know, open my own practice. So what it comes down to is, you know, having a good business plan, knowing what you want to do, getting, securing a bank loan and making sure that it's for enough for what you want to do. So knowing how much your startup specifically is going to be. Are you doing a whole build out, or are you buying somebody else out? That's going to make a difference. But your bank loan needs to sort of cover everything for you. And so for myself, it covered my build out. It covered obviously any fees that were involved with experts that I was working with at the time. And it also helped cover for some sort of salary for myself in the very beginning, because with what you're making from your business when you start small, you're not otherwise really paying yourself in the beginning. So obviously I still have my own bills. I need to be able to live in the beginning. So I just made sure that that bank loan had enough that it would cover for some of, basically a salary for myself, so I could get by until I was making enough to turn a bit of a profit. Then I can actually pay myself and not have to worry about, am I going to be able to pay my staff too? It is a huge commitment, and it's a huge amount of money. You already have a huge amount of money in student loans. You kind of think of it as another student loan or another mortgage. It's the same kind of thing. So it's a large amount of money, but it serves a great purpose, and it gets you to where you want to be. And honestly, like, I don't feel, that monthly loan payment now. I mean, it is what it is, and it comes out of my account every month at this point, and it's just there. Like, I don't even notice it at this point, which is nice. So
yeah. The next question is, do you have any helpful tools that you use when handling payroll for your employees?
I was doing a lot of it by myself in the beginning when we were really small, and I used just some little program. And that worked fine for a long time. It was a lot more hands-on, and when you only have a staff of like maybe 5 total, including yourself, that's fine. And then I got to the point after a couple of years where we had grown enough, and just, changes with just different aspects. People were now full-time, and so with full-time staff, I pay for medical for them and other benefits. So it got a little bit more complicated. So then I signed up for a company called ADP, which has been really great. And they sort of take over everything. So they have an HR expert, and they have a payroll expert, and they have a tax expert, and all of these things with their company. So now if I have a question, or if I don't know how to do something, I have a lifeline and I can just call them or email them, and they help sort it out really quickly. So it doesn't give me a headache like it did before, and I don't have to worry about if I'm doing something right, because I have experts right there to tell me exactly what I'm doing.
Perfect. What will be an approximate square footage needed for a 3 exam room facility? Is there any special requirements or restrictions from your local authorities for the location and accommodation?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. So I looked at a bunch of different places. I want to say they were mostly all around 2,000 square feet. The place that I'm in right now is just under that. It's 1,880. And if you're kind of smart with your floor plan layout, you can definitely make it work for you. And I feel lucky that with what I have room to sort of move things as we've grown and things have changed. I have the room to kind of move things around. So I would say 2,000 square feet is fair. And then you just want to make sure that you have enough storage. You're never going to have enough storage, but you want to try your best to have enough storage, and places to like grow into your practice. As far as the second part of that question with ordinances and things like that, I didn't really run into too many troubles. When you go for your permits, and I'm sure every place is a little bit different, but it was interesting. They do send out like almost like a survey to the surrounding business establishments saying, oh, this person wants to open a veterinary hospital, and they actually give the other people a chance to say yay or nay for that, which was interesting. I didn't know that that was a thing, but thankfully nobody objected to me opening there. And I think the only restriction I had was that for my business, they didn't want animals like staying on the property. So like we couldn't have, major overnight hospitalizations and things like that, which honestly still happens from time to time. But because we're a day facility and we close at 6, I just try to encourage owners, they need to transfer somewhere else that's open overnight to continue monitoring them, and that's hasn't really been an issue. Everybody has pretty much been really good about that, just to transfer somewhere else overnight and then come back the next day if they need to still be seen.
Perfect. What made you choose the type of practice in your clinic? For example, emergency hospital versus a general clinic?
I think I just stuck with general practice because that's what I was comfortable with. I was just a general practice associate before I opened. So I knew that's what I was good at. I'm comfortable with it. I love talking to owners, educating them, being part of their extended family, growing with these animals that you might have seen from their first puppy visit to now they're 14 years old. I like that aspect of it. So I knew that that's what I wanted to continue with. We do occasionally see emergencies if they come in during the day, but I'm not a fan. I don't work well under that kind of pressure. I'm not a fan of emergencies. So I knew that I didn't want to have some big practice where, we had to stay open all night and field emergencies coming in all the time, because I don't thrive off of that kind of environment. And opening your own place is all about making the kind of workplace culture that makes you the happiest, and where are you going to feel the most comfortable for a long time.
Absolutely. Next question. How long after passing the NAVLE do you recommend waiting before opening a practice?
So you pass the NAVLE, you're a brand new doctor. You can do whatever you want, honestly. I just, for myself, found that, being a brand new doctor, you kind of, it's your first time being in the real world with it. You're not in clinics anymore. You don't have somebody really telling you what needs to be done or prompting you through things. You're the doctor. So I knew that I wanted to practice under somebody else, get a little bit of mentorship, just feel things out a little bit, feel more confident in my skills and my abilities. And also just feel more confident with talking to people about things that are hard to talk about when it comes to their pets. And so that few years that I had under my belt before opening was, I think, just helped build my confidence and was really important to me.
Yeah, I can imagine. Next question. What would be the price range or cost to open a small operation?
Again, you can kind of set what you need to, depending on what you think you want out of your practice. I think, like I said, it's kind of like another mortgage. So, and certainly depends on your location. So I'm in Southern California. Things are way more expensive than they would be in another state or somewhere that's more rural. But, for me, maybe $300,000 or $250,000 should be enough to get you a nice little startup and get you all the equipment that you need. Like I said, I have digital X-ray, I have digital dental, I have an ultrasound, I have in-house labs. We're all digital with our record keeping. So we're all up to date, we're modern, we have everything that we need, and we didn't have to spend, cajillions of dollars. And you start small and then you grow into it.
That goes perfectly into our next question. So how many clients does your practice see daily?
So on a typical day now, most every day during the week is a 2-doctor day. So we're seeing appointments simultaneously, and we've kind of worked it out where each of us has our own little team. So we're not just grabbing the first technician that we see, which has helped. So right now, I would say we're probably averaging maybe 30 patients a day, 30 clients a day. And certainly that might depend on how many surgeries do we have that day? We obviously take time off during sort of the middle of the day is when we try to do our surgical procedures. So we try not to schedule other things during that time, because that's a good time for obviously people to get on their lunches, and they can kind of rotate out who's doing what. But if need be, we'll do drop-offs and we'll see emergencies and things like that too during the day. Just sort of depends.
What was your favorite thing about studying at Ross Vet?
I really enjoyed my entire time there. I mean, the fact that you're on a tropical island, and the beach is right there and you can just go study at the beach, that does not suck. But I just liked the whole culture of, that it's small classes. Everybody knows everybody else. You really get to know the clinicians and professors, even outside of just the classroom setting. I just really felt like it was a very family-oriented type of place. Everybody cared about everybody else. Everybody wanted everybody else to do well. It was great. It was a great experience.
Wonderful. Very supportive. I know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this next question, I know you kind of talked a little bit about it when you were introducing yourself and kind of your journey, different between jobs and not so happy. How long did it take you to open once you decided you wanted to open your own practice?
Time frame. So I think I took the plunge as far as saying, yep, this is what I'm doing, and kind of started the base work as far as figuring out, like, are you going to be an LLC or an S Corp or self-employed? And, figuring all those little things out first was probably in April of 2012. And I, by that summer, was doing the build out. So July, August was the build out. And my first official open day was middle of September of that year. So it's pretty fast. It goes fast.
Yeah, we were
as long as there's not too many hiccups, because there's all sorts of little issues that can happen that may have put that off. But I was lucky that it was pretty smooth sailing.
Great question coming up next. So how do you keep up to date with any new equipment and technology on the market for vet practice?
That is a really good question. So in the beginning, at least, I found it helpful to just try to work with one vendor. So I worked really closely with one person, and she was really helpful with, inventory. What do I want to keep in stock? What kind of equipment do I need or want? And really helped me kind of focus my energy that way. And that's kind of how we want to continue. So I probably would be due for an upgrade with some equipment now. Now that I think about it, I've been open for 8 years and things don't last forever. So still having really good ties with certain vendors and having them help you out with those types of things, I think is important. But also for me at this point in my journey, I have a really amazing office manager that came to me with tons of experience already. She was, an office manager or hospital administrator at another clinic before she had moved into town. And so I looked to her for a lot of her expertise. She's been doing this longer than I have for sure. And so she sort of knows some of the ins and outs on how to get good deals or where to look or who to talk to. And that's been invaluable for sure.
What's your favorite animal to treat?
Gosh, that's a good question. I don't know that I have a favorite animal to treat, but I do feel like I'm a little bit more of a dog person than a cat person. And I think my favorite breeds would be either the pitties or the golden retrievers, or some of the doodle mixes are just silly. And I know that they have their problems, but they're just adorable. And lately I've just been going gaga over we've had a lot of doodle mixes of various kinds come in lately. A lot of puppies, and they're just the cutest things ever.
What's one thing you know now about owning a practice that you didn't know when you first started?
Goodness. There's probably a lot of things.
I would imagine.
Because for me, I definitely sort of was learning as I went. So even if you're working with and talking with experts and consultants that do this all the time, there's still a lot of self-taught things that you go through. So I think the biggest part for me, it wasn't as so much on the opening of your practice side, but just owning it now, is how to really effectively manage, how to talk to your staff, how to keep them engaged and feel appreciated. But then at the same time, like, how to, discipline them too, and keep everybody in line, and like in line with what you need for them to continue to grow. It's been really hard, especially with COVID, because we are curbside and we've been really crazy busy, just like a lot of other hospitals. And it's draining, it's exhausting on them. But until places start to open up, it's really hard I can't take them all out to dinner to celebrate just doing a good job. So it's been finding other ways to show my appreciation to them. That's taken some imagination. And just, learning that each person is an individual. So sort of a one size fits all way of managing doesn't always work. And doing employee reviews is really important, getting their side of things. And I've learned that, like with employee reviews, having them fill out their own review, so like they're doing a self review as well as your review, and then like comparing them has been really helpful, to just sort of get more of their perspective on what's going on.
Yeah. When it comes to clients and statistics, do you have low seasons and high seasons during the year?
A little bit, but again, not maybe as much as some other states, because I know sometimes the low seasons coincide with, like, if there's a bunch of snow or hard weather, and we don't have that. So we have a little bit of a slowdown sometimes in the late fall, but for the most part, we're pretty steady. And then I would say for sure, summertime is usually our biggest, most crazy time of year.
Well, it looks like we've had a lot of questions. I don't know if we have any more. I'll give it a few seconds. So I think that might be it. So do you have any parting words that you'd like to leave the audience with? Any aspiring vets or aspiring owners of a practice one day?
Yeah, it's like I said before, it is scary. It's totally scary. I think it's very much worth it. It is something you can do. The nice thing about owning a veterinary practice, as scary as it sounds, one little tidbit of information that helped me feel a little bit more comfortable was that veterinary hospitals almost never fail. There's always going to be a need for us. And it's some crazy low statistic of the amount that actually fail or go bankrupt. Or close for whatever reason. It's not like we're a restaurant or, something like that, where restaurants have a really high amount of closures or failures. So even going into it as small, and gosh, can I do this? Can I make it by and make it through? You definitely can. Everybody's always going to need pet doctors. You know what you're doing, and the rest, like, if you find the right people to work with you, then there's nothing bad that can happen, I think.
Great. That's very encouraging. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Ronchetto. It's been so much fun hearing about your journey and all that you've done. Thank you, everybody, for watching tonight. We appreciate your time. Remember to click on that link if you do want to find out more information. You can click on that link and fill it out, reach out. And we'd love to answer your questions. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good night.